What if your next script, your next edit, or even your next sermon was co-created with artificial intelligence? Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm so excited to get into this short series discussing the role of artificial intelligence and how it is quickly changing the landscape of both filmmaking and media creation, and also explore some questions about how we as Christian content creators possibly are going to be affected by this new ever-changing landscape. Over the course of this series, I want to explore some general topics like upfront, what is AI and what can it help in your workflow? Can you write a God-honoring story with the use of AI? What is the role of artificial intelligence on a film set? And finally, as Christian filmmakers and content creators, is AI something that we should be avoiding or embracing? And what are the pros and cons associated with that? Now, this series is not meant to tell you whether you should or should not use AI, but more throw some open-ended questions out there to hopefully get you thinking about how you could maybe incorporate AI into your workflow, or if it's something that you need to just kind of let you pass you by. So I'm hoping that this gets you thinking, that it sparks some lively discussions in the comment section below. And so with that in mind, let's get into the first topic of what is AI. Okay, so the first question really with AI is, what is AI's current role in filmmaking and what is it growing into? A big concern that you pretty much see across the creative space, and even in some other outside industries, is AI going to replace workers? Is it going to replace artists? And the honest answer I have for you from what I've seen just in our industry alone is, with some positions, yeah, it's going to replace some key positions. I mean, my own experience with AI is I've been messing with ChatGPT and some of the image creators out there, and I've even taken an AI course, and that has been amazing in terms of just the imagery I've been able to generate, thumbnails for this YouTube channel, and I am shocked by the capabilities it already has. Now, the key thing to remember is that any one of the AI platforms out there, they can only generate content based on information that it's already fed. So that information has to come from somewhere. And so, with AI, I think we as Christians need to look at it as a tool that we should consider mastering. I think this goes into an interesting insight of we are called to be good stewards of the resources and the tools that are made available to us. Mastery of a tool comes from working with it, getting to really understand it, and developing a personal and ethical wisdom about the tool and how it can best be applied. And I think if we really take that into consideration, there's a lot of exciting possibilities about how we can use AI in our filmmaking. But to the bigger question of, is AI here to replace some positions? I go back to my answer is yes, there are going to be some positions that are going to be made obsolete by AI. Already in my workflow, I've been using it as a research assistant, as a concept art, generator. I've been throwing, template budgets at to help me generate a more fine-tuned budget for my projects for clients. And I'm amazed at just like the speed it can contemplate stuff. It calculates things instantly. Now, mind you, it's not perfect. I've seen it mess up basic math and I've had to correct it. I've seen it generate ridiculously crazy images where I don't know where it sometimes got its ideas from, but it's very quick to fine tune and adjust itself with the right prompts. So the big thing I would ask you to keep in mind is, yes, AI is definitely here to stay. It's going to keep evolving and it is going to replace some positions. So I guess the question I pose to you is this something that you want to master as a tool, or is it something that you want to kind of come and replace some of the work that you're currently getting? Second point I want to make is, as Christian content creators, I don't think we can ignore that AI is here and it is here to stay. And it's not some future concept that's coming down the pipeline in the next few years like we've been hearing. It's here. And you see different unions in Hollywood already start to take action against it. There was actually just a film released, I believe it was the Bad Guys 2 movie. It's an animated movie, but at the end they felt that they had to put a disclaimer at the very end of the movie saying that this film was not generated with AI, and they do not give any AI platform the permission to use this film as a learning tool. So there's definitely a lot of new rules and even legislation and contractual agreements and legal language that is starting to come out of the potential threat of AI. So everyone in the industry views AI as something that's not going away, and now the question is, how do we deal with it? How do we incorporate it in a way where it's not being used to steal, to not copy, to not mimic, stuff that is copyrighted or protected, and so people don't get screwed over out of, their wages, out of their livelihood, out of a job potentially, which is clearly the greatest fear out there. That, we just this past 2 years, we've had a writer's strike and an actor's strike, and one of their primary concerns was artificial intelligence. So for us as Christian filmmakers, I think this is one of those things where it's like, we gotta get out ahead of things. Already AI is speeding up the pre-production process, helping in script writing, budgeting, as I mentioned in the first point, helping with conceptual art planning of like, what does a potential poster look like, creating concept art to help you give a feel of the movie. During production, it's helping to create shot lists, location boards, a wardrobe list. There's just infinite possibilities of what artificial intelligence can help do for you, and it can do it way quicker than a human being could do it. And that's where you may face the potential of job losses. But the other way to look at that is like, this may not necessarily have a direct impact on the big studio films out there, but for the solo Christian creator, for the small micro budget independent film, which I myself am sometimes operating in that micro budget space. And when I say micro budget space, I'm saying like, you're doing anything from $0 to maybe $50K budget. We'll just give that a broad range there, which is pretty micro budgety. You're not like going crazy with a big cast, a lot of name talent, and you definitely are keeping your crew as small as possible, and you're trying to shoot in as fast as time frame as possible, because the days add up, and just the daily amount you're spending, you just can't afford to shoot for like a month. You may be shooting 1 to 2 weeks, then you got to get done because it's too expensive to keep going. So that's where AI can be a really useful tool, because it can help speed things up. It can do roles where you don't have to maybe hire someone, and you can put some of your very precious budget somewhere where AI can generate. Like, a good example, my holiday film. Just shot a holiday film last year and it released this year. One of the things that artificial intelligence could not do for me is it could not go out and buy the wardrobe for me. And wardrobe in a Christmas film is crucial. Now, it could help me conceptualize what the wardrobe would look like. It can generate a shopping list and it can organize it based on the schedule, but it can't go out and personally buy that wardrobe for me and bring it to set and dress the actors and make sure it looks good on camera. It can't do any of that. But there's a lot of steps in that process where instead of having to hire individuals to do all that pre-planning work, I just need to hire a wardrobe supervisor to purchase the wardrobe and then monitor it on set. So that speeds things up, and it also saves me money, and I can take that dollar amount in the pre-production and put it towards maybe increasing the wardrobe budget, increasing the props budget, or some other position that I more crucially need. The point is, when you're in those small budget spaces, AI can be a very useful tool. So it's important for us as Christian-based filmmakers to be aware of that aspect of it. And artificial intelligence is also playing a huge role in post-production. We're already seeing AI do amazing things with, doing edits, pulling social media clips. The new show, The House of David, that aired last year on Amazon, they actually did a really interesting article about how they used artificial intelligence platforms to do some of the visual effects work just because it was the most cost effective. And once they dove into it, they really pushed the software really hard. They were able to get some amazing images, and it ended up in one of the final episodes of the show. So already AI is really pushing visual effects realism that is cutting out like whole teams of what would normally be expensive visual effects that you couldn't normally afford to do on small budgets. And that's the interesting thing, is it's making what used to be the unattainable on small independent projects attainable. And that's something where if we are training ourselves to understand this tool and how to use it, we're going to create new opportunities for ourselves. So, you have to almost keep the idea of AI is another tool that I have to master, because it's definitely not going anywhere. And, it's one of those things where, like, if you aren't pushing yourself to master something, eventually it's going to master you. And so I encourage my fellow creators out there, if you haven't even touched AI or explored it even just in the tiniest bit, it's something you might want to consider looking into, because it may end up being a really useful tool for you to help save you on your budget, or free up your budget to be put towards something that AI just cannot create. But also, it may open up new opportunities for you, because if you can become a master of that tool, those who need experts in that space are going to be looking for people to help create these prompts and stuff like that. And that's where you could maybe create some new opportunities for yourself. So the question now, specifically for us as Christian content creators, where do we need to be cautious in dealing with AI? An important thing to first remember is that AI does not have any moral compass. It doesn't have a human soul with emotions and God created infused wisdom to understand good or bad. It just knows data and what it's already been fed from an information standpoint. It doesn't understand emotions, and it has no moral compass. That's the first thing to understand. The second thing is that we need to be careful about not relying on the tool so much where the storytelling becomes soulless. Storytelling at its core essence, I personally believe, is a human thing. It is a way to impart emotional truth, to bear one's soul, to uplift, to energize, to inspire. Storytelling is meant to connect with our fellow human beings. It is very much a human thing. And this is why even Jesus used storytelling to convey a truth about the relationship with God and man, a principle of heaven, a core concept of how we should treat one another. He used stories to communicate these truths, these ways of living a righteous life. So storytelling is inherently human, and the reason why it's inherently human is because God put that within us. So at part of his essence of God himself through Jesus is a storyteller. And so that's something to remember, is that AI cannot replicate that because it's not capable of creating that. Then obviously the biggest ethical dilemma that's out there right now is, especially from people in front of the camera, is the deepfake technology that's out there, the replication of performance of voice, where if you are not cautious, or if you just have bad actors out there who can take a star's talent, their performance, and tweak it. You can take a political figure and come up with something completely fake, but that ruins their reputation, that ruins maybe some message that they're trying to get out there. That's the ethical dilemma that's really being faced by a lot of different individuals and business entities out there right now with AI. And I'm sure sometime down the road there's going to be a lot of legislation and protection clauses put out there to protect the rights of an individual's appearance on camera. And I believe us as Christian filmmakers need to be even more conscientious of it. And if anything, we need to be the leaders on this conversation, because we understand from an even bigger perspective of we are all created as individuals in the image of God with our own individual personalities, and no one else is like us in the world. So I personally encourage us to step up and be the leaders in this discussion, not just the participants. I want to throw out a scripture that I think really applies well to this whole discussion about what we as content creators should be doing with AI. It comes from 1 Thessalonians 5:21, which is, "Test all things, cling to what is good." And I think that's a good guiding principle as we try to figure out what we want to use AI for and what we shouldn't use AI for. To sum up, AI is definitely not going anywhere. There's definitely some great uses for it, especially in the independent filmmaking space. But we also need to just be wary of how it's maybe affecting other people that we work with. We need to be respectful of people's likeness, of their voice, and make sure we're not, using this technology for, personal hurting purposes, which people have already tried to do. And we just need to be constantly be considering what is morally right in the use of AI. So that wraps up this episode. Our next episode is going to deal with how can you tell a God-honoring story with AI as your co-writer. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to get into this series with you. And if you have a question or a comment about your own experiences with AI, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Let's keep the conversation constructive, and I will see you guys in the next episode. So remember to keep the faith and keep on filmmaking.